Alright, hi everyone. Short and Innovative here with another video. Just wanted to see about giving a couple of tips and things that I look for when trading trend lock. All right. Um, Today was not a typical day, you know, where it performed real well, but there were some good moves that actually still could have been caught. I was a bit distracted with a few things, but either case, um, let's go back to like where the market opened today. Now we had news at 10, so I was kind of just sitting around and waited for that, especially being on a Friday here. Um, we started the morning and we basically had a pretty choppy little session here going. Now, easiest way to tell is looking at the 5 minute over here. You'll see we pulled up, opening candle was a doji. All right. So from there, we came down. Let's see if I can pull this to here. Here we go. All right. Now, as we're going, here was actually a signal that we could have taken right after the open. Okay, you have MACD down, full breaking down. Now the zero line, remember this is important. You want to have them both below. We actually came down, pushed back up, and came back down again. But right here, we still have the signal line that's above. But that still would have been a decent trade considering the 5 minute MACD, both below. They're stacked. The EMAs are stacked on the 5 minute, and the EMAs are stacked on the 1 minute. Okay, so say if we would have gotten in on this candle here, all right, which prominently I would have probably gotten in right on this candle here. But considering I don't trade the mornings typically until about 45 minutes after, if I would have gotten in, it would have been just 5 points. Now, this is an interesting spot here. We came up, price came above the two, so we know we were waiting for a pullback. We never got a pullback. It just came straight down. So that would have been no trade. Even though we were below on everything else, rules are the rules. So there's no pullback, no entry. Then we came back up. Now the MACD is above the signal line. So right now we have nothing to really look for because we're still stacked on the 5 minute and the 1 minute. Nothing here, nothing here. We're just in pure chop now. All right. This looks like, it would be something good if you're looking just at the 40 minute. We're looking at the 5 minute. There's nothing there. Looking at the 1 minute, the ADMA is still below the 21. All right. Comes back down, comes back up. These are here, but we're still 5 minute. Everything's looking below. So we're still looking for shorts considering the 5 minute is stacked to the downside. All right. This is where news came out. Everything just went rather quickly. If you look down at the bottom, we're a whole minute here and it's just going around. Now that markets absorb the news, we're still kind of chopping around. We're looking for shorts, but now our EMAs aren't lining up. And nothing's looking good here. The 1 minute still looking to the downside. The 5 minutes looking to the downside. All right. And right here, we have this kind of broke below. And then as it came down, price pulled back up. So this would be basically an entry right here. Yep. We rented on this one. You would have been in the red for half a point. All right. Price came up, came back down. We're still under the EMAs on the 5 minute. Break down, we get a pullback. Get a pullback, you see this candle here. Now this candle here, right before we had strong delta pushing up. So look at the delta percent, 25% pushed up. All right. And you see that the buyers stepped in on this candle here, and we had a delta divergence. Then we had a strong delta pushing up, and then it came down with negative delta. All right. We're above the MACD line, the signal line here with the MACD. So you may not want to be looking at taking that trade. The only thing that I see that would change my mind is looking at the 1 minute chart in the bottom left over there. We have a candle that wicked up but didn't hit that 8 EMF. We would have gotten in here. We would have already seen the rejection there. We see the rejection here. So that could have been a good entry right there. But didn't follow everything primarily, so we're going to skip that one. All right. Come up here, we have absorption. So strong selling still, like 40% here on this candle. 84 contracts got absorbed here. We got a buy signal. Well, being cautious, we see how that is. Price comes up, comes back down. We're going to be cautious if we just see this all get absorbed. Okay? Comes back down, gets absorbed again, push back up. Now this is coming down. We're having stronger delta, almost double the amount, pushing down. Okay? Even though we had double pushing down, we still have this absorption level right here. Look at the value area. All right? Remember the value areas because that's where predominantly a lot of the transactions happen. So considering this was right above that value area, you don't know that's going to get through there. Comes in, comes down. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Now on this one, we came down. We have the 27% delta there. This one comes down. And now we're not touching the 80 EMA. All right. Even though it looks good on the 1 minute, we end up getting this Uber right here with absorption. We were at 84, 54. So it was getting weaker, but then they stepped in because they have a few more here. So we have an Uber with absorption and trap traders. It pushes up. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting. We have trap traders right up here. So a lot of volume is here. That means these sellers that were right up here all stepped in. So we have these buyers to get through. We see them right here. All right. Positive delta is only 2 here. Negative delta. This comes down. As this comes down, we're just getting ready to, we're still above here on the EMA. So if we look at the 1 minute, what happened at the 1 minute? The 1 minute had a candle move up and then a strong bar closing down. All right. As this bar is closing down, basic price action, that is an engulfing candle coming off the ADMA on the 1 minute chart. The 1 minute price action traders are taking that trade. All right. That's the ones that stepped in here. You could have taken this, but if you weren't comfortable with that, which primarily was seeing all this, I probably wouldn't have been. Coming up and then seeing this here. Now we're below this level. These buyers have already been taken out. The buying right here, you see the imbalances, buying imbalances, were right here. This candle closes right below here. There's really no reason to take this. We're below the MACD on the 5 minute. We already showed that we had the rejection on the 8 minute. Take the trade from there. Now you're trailing it down. We get a surge. Now you have more confidence. Take it on down. And 30 points. All right. Now price from here comes back up. Now this is where I'm going to show you guys a couple of things that are a little interesting about this setup with the MACD. We had this here with the surge going on as this crossed up here. That's an interesting aspect in itself. We also came up above the 1 minute, but the 5 minute, we're still below the 8 EMF. We do not want to fight against the 5 minute chart. It's not what you ever really want to do. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. This here, we have some chop going around. We're above here. The EMAs are stacked to the upside. Same thing on the 1 minute and the 5 minutes below. Here, this trade, I actually took them. All right. We crossed below, pulled back, pushing down. The MACD on the 40 range was actually red and sloping down. We had the delta flipped right here. So everything was a go. We look at the 1 minute, we're below the EMAs. We look at the 5 minute, we're below the EMAs. We've been downtrending. All looks good. The only thing that doesn't look good on this whole scenario that we see from this chart is the MACD on the 5 minute. It's crossing up. Okay? It's close to crossing up. We had the same scenario right here earlier on. So get back to the 1120 spot right here. So even though I took this because I've generally seen it go. All right. Now there's one other aspect I have on my charts that you guys don't have on yours, or maybe you do. I have pivot points on my charts. I'm going to have a link to the pivot points that I have, because they also have the mid pivot points, not just the regular standard NinjaTrader pivot points. Earlier, it came through that same spot. Right here, we were dealing with a pivot point. Okay? This here would have been a good trade because you would have actually broke the pivot point, came up, and this here would have been testing the downside of the pivot point. Give you the confidence to even get into that even more. But that pivot point, with it being right there, I believe it was at 68.50, somewhere around there. Trading into a pivot point, that's going into like a support or resistance level. It came through pretty hard earlier with the trap traders. So my assumption, which I never want to assume, my assumption was that they already came through once, that they were going to do it again, come down and retest the lows. That didn't happen. Buyer stepped in and took it up to the upside. Now, let's go further on. Coming down to here. All right. Here, we're above here. On the 1 minute, we're above. On the 5 minute, we're above the EMAs at this point, and we're pulling back. So as we're pulling back there, this broke up. I think I actually took, this broke up, it pulled back. I took this entry here. For me, that looks good. Only thing I didn't look at was, once again, the MACD. MACD is only crossing the 0 line, and it's still below 0. Price came back down. Now this one here, we're above the 0 line. We're moving up. And the MACD on the 40 range had crossed below and is crossing up again. We have delta flip. So this would have been a decent entry right here. And that one there would have yielded 8.25 points. Now, this is what I said was a decent trade. We would have came down here. We're below the MACD line. I wouldn't want to be taking this, but we're starting to have everything come above the MACD on the 5 minute. Something I see constantly is when the MACD and the signal line are crossing up, there's usually a pullback. Okay, so within that, if we look, we actually got a pullback. Now here we're looking on the 1 minute, everything's below. So today was definitely a day that was a bit tough on trying to get your entries. Now, Just like I say with price, has to pull up and come back. Think of the zero line in the MACD doing the same. It pulled. See here, it broke up, pulled back, and broke up again as it's coming. But we only just had the breakout here. So now price broke out over the EMAs and pulled back. This one comes up here. We already had the breakout and pullback on the MACD on the 40. We're above them on the 1 minute. And look at the 5 minute. It did the same thing. This was a good entry. All right, that's right here. Now, if we look at the delta, we had a delta surge. All right, look at this, even better yet. So we had a delta surge here, which really didn't test the delta that much. But we had a delta surge here. We got the surge, simple surge system right here with the trend lock system simultaneously. That's an entry. Take that up, 14 and a quarter. I didn't see that one because I wasn't actually even by my computer at this time. That was a good one there. Now it comes back down. We're here. Everything's up and above. Everything's looking good. Negative delta. Now here we had negative 11 and the buyer stepped in. You have a buying imbalance here. It pulled down even further. Never hit the surge. If you wanted to take this, you could have. I probably wouldn't have because we're still below and just seeing how the day's been playing out. All right. But the tips basically are you want to make sure that you have the pullback here with the MACD as well. And you want to make sure that they're coming up and above. This here would have probably been the entry and I would have been out for a little bit more. All right. Coming back down, but we're still up and above. 5 minute MACD is below. And we're not looking the greatest now. Right here, we had a pullback. MACD is crossing on the 5 minute. We have absorption kicking in here. We're crossing up. Negative delta here. So all this selling power, right where this sell candle is, we had the surge, selling, absorption, and now we go up. All right. And here, we're right below here. If you were tight enough, you would have just gotten stopped for a half a point. But this one, we're right above again. And next one, you would have seen it sloping up. Could have got in here. Oh, actually, yep. And definitely not a good day. All right. This point here, everything's still looking pretty good. We're above the 1 minute here. Yeah. All right. Now, for this down here, uh, I'll get to that in a minute here. I could do that. We're actually right over here. Now we're over here, and a lot of you guys have been asking about how we're going to handle dealing with ranges and everything else. This is running to the end of the day. All right. And you can see today, even with this, taking these trades here, you have 7 points here, half a point here, minus 1.5. So figure just call it 6. 4 through 20, 28, and another 30 here. Roughly 50 points. Okay. Like I said, I took the one here for a loss, so I think I actually got it filled down here. I took like 11.75 points hit. All right. But, oh, this is actually a perfect spot to see this here. So we're dealing with ranges. I'm just going to open this fully here. Right, we're in a range. Once you start seeing that we're coming back, we're rotating through, we're in a range. When you have a range and you have the fast MACD on the bottom, you're going to notice this. Just with the arrow. Nope, wrong one. Price made a higher high. Need a lower low. Right here. Need a lower low, lower low, lower low, low. Here. Lower low, higher. Crisscross. All right. Didn't really want to get into this with you guys, but when you see the divergence and the MACD crosses, usually you could grab a couple of points. All right. Same thing here. And it crosses, you grab a couple of points. This primarily works the best with the range. If you look at the other charts, the tick charts and whatnot, it's not as prevalent. This here, we're at the bottom, it's going down. That one there. So where I actually took my loss, I could have, since we were in the range, I was looking for the breakout. That never happened. With the pivot point being here, this is going to go to the long side. All right. If we look elsewhere, let's see if we get any more real quick. Oh, right here. I noticed this because I did a lot of divergence trading. Typically, you want to break the zero line, and then usually it'll go. Okay. It's here. Um, so forth. Crosses. It literally crosses right on this candle. We have buying imbalance, and we're not getting a tremendous amount, but still, looking at 15 points of opportunity, still is an option. Just if you like to do the ranges in that aspect. Right here, we're in a range. All right. If you look at it from here, this is the range. This is interesting. I typically like ranges for one reason. Ranges like to rotate, one. Two, ranges are showing areas of value. This is where everyone's fighting. So price is building up, breaks out of the range. Right, breaks out of the range, came back down, right here. One side of the range to the other side of the range. We didn't know that this is a range yet. All right. But this is how ranges typically work. This, not really a range, more of a ledge. Typically the next thing there. All right. And moving on up because we've been moving on. Now this one here, but this is getting you into areas of outside the system. But just wanted to give you guys a little idea of how to utilize the quick MACD, the fast MACD here. when you're in a range. You'll get clues on what's going to happen and gives you a little bit better insight. Okay. Hope that helps you. And once again, if you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. I'll get to everyone as best as I can and go from there. Hope you all have a great weekend. All right.